When we started dragging Alder Lake for the missing college kid, we expected to find one body. What we didn't expect was everything else the lake had been holding on to for decades. The first hook came up empty. I remember that clearly because it felt wrong in a way that I couldn't explain yet. We had the grid set up the way we always did, 2 aluminum boats moving slowly across Alder Lake with a weighted drag line stretched between them. 6 hooks spaced out along the rope, each one bent open just enough to snag clothing or gear. The idea is simple. You move slow and steady across the bottom until something catches. Usually the first catch is the body. That morning it wasn't. The line tightened about 30 feet off the north shore. We all felt it through the rope at the same time. "Hold," Mark said from the other boat. Both engines dropped to a low idle. I leaned over the side and started pulling the line up, hand over hand, cold water dripping down my sleeves. One of the hooks had something on it. Not heavy, just resistance. When it broke the surface, it was a paddle. Wooden shaft, yellow blade. The varnish had peeled away from years underwater. "Not ours," I said. Mark shook his head. "Bag it." The deputy behind me dropped it into an evidence bag. We reset the line and continued the grid. The call had come in just after noon the day before. 2 college kids renting a canoe from the marina on the south end of Alder Lake. Wind came up faster than they expected. They turned broadside to the chop and the canoe rolled. One of them made it to the shore. The other didn't. Standard drowning recovery after that. Cold water, 40 feet deep in places, visibility near zero. You drag the bottom, slow, methodical. Sometimes you find them in an hour. Sometimes it takes days. The second snag came 10 minutes later. The line jerked again and we stopped the boats. This time it felt heavier. I pulled the rope up slowly. One of the hooks surfaced, dragging something black and stiff behind it. It was a life jacket. Old foam model, years old, torn along one seam, the fabric faded, almost gray. I turned it over. There was no rental tag, no fresh straps. "Another one?" the deputy asked. "Looks like it." Mark frowned across the water. "Log it," he said. We were only halfway through the first grid line. By the third snag, nobody was talking much. This one was a metal tackle box, green paint flaking off in strips, rust locking the hinges shut. It had probably been down there for years. We set it on the bottom of the boat next to the paddle and the life jacket. The lake was calm that morning, flat enough to reflect the clouds, which made the quiet worse. Mark finally said what everyone else was thinking. People lose a lot of things on this lake. He wasn't wrong. Alder Lake had been used for recreation since the early 60s. Fishing, small boats, summer camps along the west bank. And drownings. More than people realized. The sheriff's office kept records going back for decades. Every few years someone tipped a boat or fell off the dock after drinking. The water keeps things. That was becoming obvious. The fourth snag nearly pulled the rope out of my hands. "Easy," Mark called. I braced my foot against the aluminum bench and hauled the line upward. Whatever was down there didn't want to come loose. The hook surfaced first, then something long followed it out of the water. It was a length of rope. Not our rope, thicker, dark with algae. It trailed down into the lake like a black line disappearing into the water. "Cut it?" the deputy asked. "Not yet," I said. I pulled more of it up. The rope kept coming. 10 feet, 15, 20. Then the weight suddenly increased. All 3 of us felt it. "Mark," I said quietly. He killed his engine completely, and the boat drifted closer. "Something's on it?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. I leaned farther over the side and pulled it again. The rope rose slowly through the water. For a moment, I thought it was snagged on a rock. Then the shape appeared beneath the surface. Clothing first. Denim. A sleeve. The body came up tangled in the rope like it had been caught in a net. Face down, arms pinned awkwardly along the line. Nobody spoke. We all just stared for a second. Then our training took over. "Get the board," Mark said. We eased the body alongside the boat and rolled it carefully onto the recovery board. The rope was wrapped around one leg and across the chest. I cut it free in 2 places. The deputy checked the pockets. Wallet was still there. Driver's license matched the missing renter from the marina. Case closed. But the rope stayed in my hands after the body was secured. It wasn't attached to anything on the surface, just disappearing straight down again into the water. "Where's that tied off?" Mark asked. I looked at the line. The algae on it was thick, years thick. "It's not recent," I said. We started pulling more of it up. Another 10 feet, 15. Eventually the end of it surfaced. It wasn't tied to a rock. It was tied to a rusted anchor. Old steel mushroom-style anchor. The kind small fishing boats used decades ago. The rope had probably snapped or been cut years earlier and sunk to the bottom. Just another piece of equipment lost to the lake. Except for one detail. The knot around the anchor wasn't the original tie. Someone had retied it. I could tell by the difference in the rope fibers. The section near the knot was cleaner, less algae, less decay. "Dana," Mark said quietly. "Yeah. When do you think that knot was tied?" I looked back at the body on the board, then down at the rope still wet in my hands. "Not yesterday," I said. "Earlier?" "Years earlier." Mark followed the line of rope with his eye back toward the lake. "You're saying this rope's been down there since another incident?" "It looks like it." The deputy shifted uneasily in his seat. "So how'd our guy here end up tangled in it?" Nobody answered right away. The lake was quiet again. Flat water, clouds drifting overhead. I finally coiled the rope into the bottom of the boat beside the other things we'd pulled up that morning. The paddle, the life jacket, the tackle box. Gear from accidents most people barely remember it anymore. A whole history of them sitting on the lake floor. We kept dragging for another hour after the recovery, just to clear the grid. Every few passes, the hooks caught something else. A bent aluminum lantern frame, a cooler lid with the hinges gone, another life jacket so waterlogged that it came up like a slab of mud. None of it new, none of it from this accident. The lake bottom wasn't mud the way people imagine. It was layers of things that had settled over the years. Line, metal, fabric, rope, crossing rope. Every few yards the hooks would catch, and you'd feel the whole line hesitate like something down there was holding on to it. "Best guess?" Mark said after a while. I looked back at the shoreline where the overturned canoe had drifted the day before. The wind had pushed it almost exactly over the drag line we started with that morning. "You went under," I said. "Started sinking." "And?" Mark asked. "And he grabbed the first thing he could find." Mark nodded slowly. I continued. "Problem is, the first thing he found had already been down there for a long time."